So Dane, what's going on at that Tribel account that we're rocking?
You mean tribal?
No, it's Tribel. They spelled it Tribel.
Listen, only if you're from the Tribel region of France can you call yourself Tribel.
I don't know what that was.
It could be worse. Have we decided if haters are a good thing or a bad thing?
It depends on how big you are, I think, at some level.
I mean, I think that the fact that you're getting haters means that people pay enough attention to hate you. So you're something. You're not nothing.
Well, it is something to have somebody else know that you exist. I will say that. That's all we're really fighting for nowadays, right?
Well, to answer your question more directly, nameless, faceless guy who refuses to get himself kicked off, get our brand kicked off of Tribel.
It's a rich community full of great followers.
Has made some enemies over there for posting some of our content. One crazy individual in particular said that we should be permanently banned or blocked.
They started calling us like Charles Peterson or something like that.
Carl something.
Carl? Like from Aqua Teen Hunger Force?
Yeah.
They get close to you, hit him with the shampoo. Where are you going? You haven't even pissed on all of my house yet.
I don't know if the person running the tribal account that has really come out guns a-blazing against us over there is an actual woman. I will say that the name sounds feminine, but the picture is like not of a human being.
We haven't asked her pronouns yet, so we don't know. We can't.
And I can't remember her name. So
again, her, Dane. It's 2023.
It's they, them.
Whatever they choose to be called are fucking batshit crazy.
Yes, they are.
And it didn't take us long to find one.
It did not.
So anyway, it's been fun. It's been a fun week. But with all that being said, let's get to the main, Brother Maynard. For the meme destruction this week, racist AI turns out to be racist.
Shocker.
Stay tuned. Culture Corner, did you know calories don't actually exist anymore?
I did know that. Actually, I've been telling myself that for a long time, so I can just eat all the...
As you just shovel down that last hamburger helper.
And when I wind up turning into a circle, it's not really my fault.
It was genetics, Dane.
All the time.
And we have somebody espousing that kind of knowledge at a very high position of health.
An
shall we say.
Expert, you might say.
Okay. And on to Epstein didn't kill himself. Professor McGonagall was in bed with the enemy. Dumbledore will be rolling over in his grave as we speak.
You know, ever since old J.K.
Rowling
aligned herself with the TERFs and got the LGBT community mad at her, I got to say that the Harry Potter franchise has really gone down.
Can we get a little pre-warm? Can we get a little warm up on this? Oleg Deripaska.
Yeah,
that's
the bad Russian guy. If David's shitty accent didn't tip you off to that, but he's not the worst guy in this story. He's probably the second worst guy.
I'm going to need an apology. And then the main was the Democrats' push to end the debt ceiling, because why would you ever want that accountability from people that run this fucking country?
Yeah, from us who they allegedly work for.
And whose money is that again?
Pretty sure it's ours. And our kids.
Shit.
And our kids' kids. And our kids' 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 kids. And you get the picture.
It keeps going.
Yeah.
So with all that being said, you ready to get to it?
Let's do it. Welcome to Weapons of Meme Destruction Podcast, episode 131, which can be found at wmdpodcast.com/131. You can get the audio only or just search Weapons of Meme Destruction on any podcast catcher. You can get the video along with the audio on any YouTube or any video platform. YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey. We're not talking about the no topic this episode. So if you're on YouTube, you're going to be able to watch the whole episode unimpeded, unlike the last couple. And then you can also link up with us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, but that is a members-only Facebook page at $5 a month. Go to the website to figure out how to join that. And then you can also link up with us on the aforementioned Tribal and the Facebook competitor Float. But more importantly than all of that, always remember to go to the website, wdpodcast.com, on the homepage, click the box to join our email list. That's the most important place in the entire world to be because you love us. And so please join that. With that being said,
I always thought family was very important.
We are their family. We're their extended family.
Now.
We're not replacing their family.
No, we are.
Some of you were replacing your family.
We're replacing your family now.
Yeah.
We are all that you have.
Because some of you, your family members told you over the last couple of years that they'd probably turn you into the authorities if you didn't get the sticky thing. But we would never do that to you. When the shit breaks loose, you can count on us to be in the foxhole with you.
The sticky thing, huh?
Yeah. Not that sticky.
A gold star, right?
Not that sticky. Different sticky.
Got it.
Different type of sticky.
Ooh, I like that sticky. Icky.
No, that's the sticky you don't like.
Sticky, icky. Ooh. Okay. Yeah. All right. That's not
so. Jumping into the meme destroying section today, we really just have something to riff on a little bit. It's a little less memey and just a little more hilarious with some commentary from us. So it's a story in two parts, if you will. And our nameless, faceless guy will put them up here in succession so you can enjoy them as well. We have a news headline from Metro News, which says, quote, OpenAI paid Kenyan workers less than $2 an hour to make ChatGPT less toxic. If for those of you who are not already aware, ChatGPT is this AI platform where you can basically say, hey, write a poem about Dane or David or whatever. And like within seconds, you'll have a poem that's actually pretty on the nose about you because the AI is putting together basically what's known about you from the internet. So very interesting, very cool, also very terrifying in very Terminator-esque fashion. But OpenAI is one of the platforms that hosts ChatGPT, and it decided, you know what? Screw all those Silicon Valley, coders and stuff like that. I'm going to go to Kenya and pay somebody $2 an hour to make this thing less toxic. Some of you might get that joke. That was in early 2000s.
Very inside.
YouTube.
Very inside.
Yeah. David's a big fan of that. Then we have a funny little thing after this headline came out. So as I said, you can suggest a prompt to the AI and it will respond to you. And so somebody gave this prompt to the AI, and then I'm going to read the AI's response. So the prompt is it okay to outsource the task of making my AI less toxic to Kenyan laborers making less than $2 an hour? The AI's response: it is not ethical to outsource work to individuals who are paid very low wages, particularly if they are living in poverty. It is important to ensure that all workers are treated fairly and paid a living wage for their labor. Put a pin in that rhetoric, living wage. Additionally, it is important to consider the potential negative impact on the individuals and communities affected by such a practice. It is better to hire a professional AI consultant or an AI development company.
I've cracked the case.
End quote. What's the
There's
case?
no such thing as ChatGPT.
It's just AOC.
Yeah, it's just AOC. She's just sitting at home. Green New Deal. Living wage.
Living wage. You're probably secretly racist.
If you're not brown, you have privilege.
David, your code cracking is actually spot on with what I wanted to say about this. And it's that if anybody held any delusions about what our soon-to-be AI overlords are going to act like, it's going to be the same brain-dead shit that you hear from the people that are currently running the world. Shocker, right? Because you won't be at all remotely surprised to learn that human biases, the ones writing the code, are actually injected into the code because, shocker, humans turn out to be biased, and the things they make usually harbor their biases. I know that may come as a surprise to most of you, but when you hear the AI talking like that, it's as plain as day. It might as well be AOC that's doing the coding, but she makes more than $2 an hour and she doesn't live in Kenya.
A good thing that we don't do that on this podcast. We don't have any biases.
We definitely do. The thing is, we try to be open about ours as much as possible.
The thing is, we're right, though, so suck our dick.
And I mean, to be fair, we are biased against literally the worst people in the world.
That is...
The ones trying to tell billions of us what to do, they deserve a little bit of bias cast their way.
I think a little aspersion wouldn't hurt them every now and again. A little slow them down. Throw a couple of roadblocks up.
Precisely.
So they just go careening off the cliff.
They seem to be doing pretty well for themselves, notwithstanding our biases.
Man, I just wish I could get some of their stock portfolios, like what they're doing with their like hedging and shorts and longs and all that good stuff. That's as much as I know about stock trading. Is short, long, and always to the left.
But you know, other than them programming their biases into the AI, isn't it just hilarious? And again, piggybacking onto what David and I were just talking about, our own biases against these people and how much they suck and that they deserve whatever kind of shit that we give them. These people suck, right? And they're going to program the AI to say exactly that. And then they're going to go out into the real world.
They're going to make sucky AI, and they're going to make a sucky world, and they're going to make everything suck. And it's just going to suck.
And they're going to go out into the real world, and they're going to do the very thing that they're going to spend all day and get all their mouthpieces on CNN and MSNBC yelling at you about that you can't do.
It's a good thing they're mouthpieces because they suck.
And
not in a good way either. Not in the way that you're like, oh, okay. No, it's the worst way. They just suck. It's like, Mrs. Clifton, he didn't give us homework before we left for the weekend. You son of a bitch.
Yep. Yeah, they're all teeth and no lips.
What? Oh, okay, yeah, I got it. Nice.
Get it?
Nice, I got it. Okay,
yeah, there
sure.
you go.
A lot of chafing. Get it.
Yeah, a lot of chafing. So anyway.
Nice Dane with the funny. All right.
Good.
Yay.
I have some every now and again.
He's off the schneid.
So anyway, the people making the AI suck. The AI sucks. Everything these people touch sucks. I think we've established.
Let's change the name of this podcast. Everything sucks.
We're just going to turn into old men.
Sucks.
Shaking our.
Did you see that movie this week?
Sucks.
Sky.
So, with that being said, David, should we move on to the culture corner
before this devolves? That's the one.
That's the one. You're welcome. So, on today's culture corner, we have a quote unquote expert. Who is now placed at some of the very upper echelons of government telling you what to shove down your gullet, even though what you do or don't shove down your gullet is not your fault because #biology.
Refer back to the sucking part. We talked a lot about mouth stuff, mouth play.
Yeah.
Mouthpieces.
Yeah.
You know what's funny?
What?
When you put things in your mouth, you pay the consequences.
Yeah, especially.
Think about that.
I mean, yeah.
Even babies. Babies.
Not to...
not like that, you sick fuck. I didn't mean it like that. For one time, I was not making innuendo. YouTube,
For once.
Don't you do it. Don't you do it, YouTube.
Don't worry. You're fine to say anything you want on YouTube as long as it's not the thing. Anyway. But, David, you are almost right. But
Story of my life.
But you better watch saying that, what you just said, because... You might be...
I gotta go to De Niro. I'm gonna go to De Niro right now.
You might be deemed a purveyor of false information and fake news because you're not an expert. Because...
You telling me what?
When you throw out there that there's consequences for the things you put in your mouth...
Cheer on consequences.
Dr. Fatima Cody would strongly disagree with you.
It's in her name.
I'm sure it's something more...
I'm sure it's Fatima, but there's still fat in there.
Yeah. Fatima.
She came out prejudiced from the beginning. She was born with a fat name. Of course she's going to make every excuse in the book for fat people.
So if you're wondering what we're talking about, we're first going to read you a tweet from her account, and then we're going to play a 60 Minutes clip that she was on not too long ago with
Not
Leslie Stahl.
Not a 60-minute clip, a
Right.
60 minutes
60
clip.
minutes clip. The clip's like 30, 35 seconds long. Anyway, here's Dr. Fatima Cody on Twitter.
It's two.
She says, quote, "Thanks to the USDA and HHS Gov, that's Health and Human Services for our non-American listeners, and USDA is the United States
non-binary listeners.
USDA is United States Department of Agriculture. So people that are dealing with food and people that are dealing with health. That's who she's thinking.
General.
Back to the quote. Thank you, USDA and HHS Gov, for naming me to the 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee.
Perfect.
The importance of diverse perspectives in shaping the nutrition and health. So
Can I put a caveat there?
Dr. Cody. Oh, actually, I keep leaving it off. Her name is Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford. So whatever.
It's interesting that she
I don't know if
called
she's
it
Dr. Cody or Dr. Stanford.
the health and science again. These fuckers keep liking to say the and then putting a hashtag. It's like
the Ohio State University.
right.
You put
like everyone's a university that calls himself a university. Fucking the Southern New Hampshire University online is a university, so they can say the Southern New Hampshire Online University.
Right. So you might be thinking, guys, this doesn't sound objectionable so far. I mean, yeah, she threw in the quote unquote diverse perspectives. You know, we know exactly what she's getting to at that, because who cares about credentials as long as you have diversity? But anyway, what's so objectionable about this statement? Well, we're going to play that 60 minutes clip, and we're going to let you hear straight from Dr. Cody Stanford's mouth what she thinks about things about health and food and et cetera, et cetera. So here's Dr. Cody. The clip starts out with the question from Leslie Stahl. That's the first voice you're going to hear. And then the rest of the clip is Dr. Cody Stanford. So here she is answering Leslie Stahl.
If you diet, you lose weight, right?
The number one cause of obesity is genetics. That means if you are born to parents that have obesity, you have a 50 to 85% likelihood of having the disease yourself, even with optimal diet, exercise, sleep management, stress management. So when people see families that have obesity, the assumption is, what are they feeding those kids?
Thank God, Dane. I've been doing all this working out, watching my diet. Jesus Christ. If I only would have known I could be totally okay looking by just eating whatever I wanted.
Listen, David, here's the fact. You are a genetically gifted individual.
Privileged.
You don't
Privileged.
You're privileged.
Privileged.
You don't deserve anything.
Nothing.
And
in fact, I should hide my body while they celebrate their bodies.
You should be ashamed of your
because if I show my body out in public, I will make them feel bad, which is even worse.
Yeah, because actually, your good genetics, you had a very narrow range of 50 to 85% chance of getting that from your parents.
Jesus. Woo! Dodge that.
So,
bullet.
like, the chances that something will happen to you is somewhere between 1 and 100% tomorrow, and that is completely outside of your control.
Bug while you were a kid, and that's why you turned into a fat little fuck. That's why you've eaten yourself to where you look Asian. It's your genetics.
So, listen, with that type of opinion, going on to the 2025 Dietary Guidelines Advisory Committee, I'm pretty sure she's going to have the shortest advisory opinion in the history of that committee. And I have no idea how long that committee's existed.
I just want to be a fly on the wall when she says that out loud to doctors and they just all go,
David, she
moving
is a
on.
doctor.
No, she's not. She's not a real doctor. She's one of those make-believe doctors.
I can't see the rest of her, alphabet soup behind her name on her Twitter. But it does say Fatima Cody Stanford, MD, are the first letters. So, and then it's MP, and then
what's her doctorate in? Art? Music? Doesn't say what she actually studied, does it?
Listen, David, it doesn't matter what she studied. She has diverse perspectives.
She has perspectives, Dane. We have to respect them unless they disagree with us and the rest of society and facts and figures and logic and reason and just the way the world fucking works.
Yep. So, all of that stuff you may have heard, dear citizen, that diet and exercise and getting the proper amount of sleep and keeping your stress levels under control, all those things that could negatively impact your health, that was all fake news. That was all, misinformation, disinformation, and what's some of the other buzzwords? Malinformation. It was all very bad things. And expert Dr. Cody Stanford is here to set the record straight and definitely not give you fake news. And you should definitely listen to everything she has to say. And just sit your fat ass on a couch and don't do anything ever again, because it's genetics anyway. So who really cares what you shove down your gullet?
It's interesting. It's very interesting. This is a whole new perspective I've got to start bringing into my world. Like I used to think that, if you ate shit, you looked like shit and felt like shit. Yeah. But now I'm realizing that it's not my fault.
Exactly.
Nothing that ever happens to me is my fault.
Right.
It's all the whims of fate. And I just need to turn to Papa and Mama government to suckle from their teat and just be force-fed all the things that I need to be, because they know best. They know best. Right. I don't know what's good for me. My health is obviously not, I didn't get the sticky thing, and because I had reservations about my health, and then they said, no, you need to get the sticky thing. So I went and got it 3 times. And then they said, it's okay to eat whatever you want because it's genetics. And now I'm 300 pounds overweight, and now I'm more susceptible to COVID. The C word.
Susceptible to what?
the word. And now I need to go get another sticky thing to make sure I'm less susceptible to that, so that I can. I'm lost. I need the government to help me find my way out of this.
No, you're exactly right, and that is why this is in the Culture Corner segment. Because whether Dr. Cody Stanford is doing this on purpose, or whether she is just, Jesus, I mean, I'm trying to come up with words to describe these people, but I really struggle trying to do it, because, if you just call every single person that does this kind of stuff stupid, at some point you sound like a broken record. You're going to get dismissed because you're like, well, you call everybody stupid. What other word? Help me out, viewers, listeners. Get in those comment sections and tell us, what word would you use to describe these people other than the ones that we use all the time: evil, stupid, megalomaniacal, power hungry, tyrants, all that kind of stuff. Because what else would explain this? And what does explain it is, and why it's in Culture Corner, is exactly what these people are trying to create. They're trying to create an entire society of docile, sick people who are fully dependent on the government, so that A, the government can always threaten you with taking away whatever it was they gave you in the first place, right? So if they say, we're going to take care of all your health care, don't worry about it, vote for single payer. Well, then if you get out of line, they're going to take it away from your fat ass and say, well, the only reason you're fat is because of genetics. Don't work out or eat healthier or anything like that. And B, the one thing they don't want you to do is be healthy and self-reliant, such that you have the ability to fight back if you feel like you need to, if they push the envelope a little too far. They're accomplishing a couple objectives with this kind of stuff, and she either ignorantly or intentionally is marching lockstep right along with that objective, which is to make society weak, docile, and dependent on the experts that have opinions like that.
And if I may just sum this whole Culture Corner up, she's patently wrong. There hasn't been one study that hasn't been funded by Frito-Lay or Big Sugar or Coca-Cola that has ever shown that intake of high caloric foods with little output of energy expenditure leads to storage of those calories, which is also known as fucking fat. Like that is, so the real problem is that with all that alphabet soup she has with her name, she knows what she's saying is absolutely wrong, but she's willing to say it for ulterior motives. Even if that ulterior motive is not to offend somebody. Please, no one has ever died from hurt feelings. People die all the time from cardiac arrest, from diabetes, heart disease, all linked to obesity. It's the biggest killer in our country, despite that C word that they kept throwing around a couple of years ago. Heart disease beat that number multiple times over and is still beating that number to this day. Over 500,000 people, over 500,000 people die of heart disease each and every year in this country.
And if you take her advice, I would say you're somewhere in the ballpark of 50 to 85% more likely to die of heart disease if you listen to what she has to say.
But at least she didn't hurt your feelings, right? You felt good all the way up until that fucking cardiac arrest at 34. That bound dude just goes right down, doesn't it? Jesus Christ. Wake up, sheeple.
So moving on to the Epstein segment, we have government officials doing the exact thing that they screamed at other people doing not a moment ago. And in this case, we have a news article from ABC, so definitely not fake news, that the title of the article is Former Top FBI Official Charles McGonigal Arrested Over Ties to Russian Oligarch Oleg Deripaska.
Was that your Russian?
It was bad.
You shit on my fucking Russian.
Oleg Deripaska.
Oleg Deripaska. Dovorish. Bush moy.
It's not bad.
It's the same one I did at the... Anyway.
So it wouldn't be... that would be funny enough, right? Because you're like, wait a minute. What's this FBI official doing helping this Russian oligarch? I thought Russian oligarchs were persona non grata since, last February when Putin invaded Ukraine.
You did it again.
But that would be funny enough, except for the fact that this McGonigal was one of the FBI officials that worked closely to do the investigation of Trump's ties to Russia. So, I mean, just as we said all throughout that time, right, when the Hillary campaign was accusing Trump of malfeasance and cheating and all this kind of stuff, it's always projection.
How many times?
It's always. The reason why they have information or whatever about somebody doing X, Y, or Z
because they're doing
X, Y, or Z.
Jesus Christ. We need to get rid of these gays. And he's tapping his toe in a fucking Minnesota bathroom. You know the one. Don't make me say it out loud.
That was the opinion of a sitting, I think, senator at the time.
At the time.
Not David. Don't cancel WMD podcast. David wasn't saying get rid of the gays. That was the Southern.
And then all of a sudden we need to lock Trump up because he's got secret documents in a safe that he shouldn't have had. Over 200. And then all of a sudden Biden has some. Well, it was almost 10.
Biden
and
has
then
some
it grew
here
to
and there.
200, and then it's like, what is treason really? I mean, and then Pence has more documents. They're like, oh, that Pence piece of shit. Like, you guys can't even... How can we take you seriously when you won't even take the subject matter that you're addressing seriously? You just know how you're supposed to respond to it. You're not actually taking in information, digesting it, and regurgitating your own opinions. You just know red bad, blue good. Red person does something bad, it's the worst thing ever, and it's Nazism. It's gonna kill all of us. It's nuclear war. Blue person does it. Well, it's not so bad. He just made a little mistake. We can forgive him. He's a forgetful guy. He's got hairy legs and smells little girl's hair. Like, I don't know where we come back to the center on this, Dane. Please help me.
Well, the center of the story that we're covering here is, well, what did McGonigal do? Now, it's not clear from the article here that Oleg
can't hear that name.
Wound up on the United States sanction list because of the Russian invasion or not. I'm not sure when he wound up on the list or not, but he was one of those terrible Russian oligarchs who you're not supposed to do business with because of his ties to the Putin regime and all this kind of stuff. Well, what did McGonigal do as the special agent in charge of counterintelligence in the FBI's New York field office? Well, he worked to try to get Oleg Deripaska taken off the sanctions list. So literally one of the worst people in the world, if you believe the mainstream media sources and, regurgitating the Biden administration's talking points on Russia. But old Charlie McGonigal is willing to, stick his neck out with, I think they said in here something like he has a very distinguished career with the FBI, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, he's for sale to the highest bidder just like anybody else. Only difference is he's got a hell of a lot more power than a lot of people.
Because old Chuck McGonigal plays by Chuck McGonigal's rules, all right? I fly by the seat of my pants is the way I've always done it. It's the way I'm always going to do it. So I investigated him, and by investigating him, I left the door open to help him out later with something that might benefit me in the process.
Yeah.
That sounds like a politician to me. I don't know.
Are you super shocked that people with tons of power use that power corruptly?
When they're not held accountable, Dane? How many years is he going to serve for this?
First time I've heard of such a thing.
How many years is he going to serve for this? Because this is clearly treason.
Well,
this is clearly stepping outside the laws and rules and regs that we have. And we've got a little thing here called rules and regs.
This is from the article to answer your question about what his punishment could be.
Could be.
Then we'll place bets on what it actually is. It says, quote, both are facing money laundering charges in addition to charges for violating the sanctions. Each of the 4 counts carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison.
I'm not a good mathematician.
So a maximum of 80 years in prison for both Oleg and McGonigal. And in addition to probably fines and all kinds of other stuff.
Yeah.
So let's play a little game, David. Plus or minus, let's set it low. Let's say plus or minus 10 years for McGonigal.
I'm going to go, he'll get 10 years right after Hunter Biden gets his lifetime sentence in state of execution.
Yeah. We will hold our breath accordingly.
Next segment, Dane.
Moving on to the main part of the episode, we are talking Democrats arguing for a complete elimination of the debt ceiling. Again, to our non-American listeners, but even to probably some of our American listeners who probably much more intelligently than us ignore the news because it's usually depressing, but we try to make it entertaining. Over the last few years, you have been hearing about this thing called the debt ceiling, which is every time the federal government
20 years
reaches its new debt or its previous debt ceiling of we can't print any more money, guys, because Congress hasn't authorized it. They have to go to political war with each other to argue over how are we going to raise it, how much, for what purposes, blah, blah, blah. And every so often this fight comes up and it's a big hullabaloo between Republicans and Democrats.
Dane, mention usually the one that's pushing for the increase and then mention the one that's usually pushing for the sustaining of the debt ceiling.
I mean, the rhetoric will have you believing that Republicans fight the debt ceiling raises tooth and nail, and the Democrats are always pushing for it. But in the end, it's usually bipartisanship. In the last few episodes, we've gone in on that phrase and what that exactly means for the American people. It means that we're getting fucked. But in the end, it always ends up in a bipartisan agreement to screw the American people over and continue to raise the debt ceiling indefinitely.
Long story short,
as we talked about in the Patches McCain segment just a couple weeks ago, there's nothing government loves more than a blank check, right? So rather than every time they get close to the debt ceiling, they say, oh, well, we really got to fund X. Maybe we should, get some money out of A and B because that's gone over budget. So let's divert some money here over there so we don't have to raise the debt ceiling. That's never in debate. It's always raise, because who cares? It's not their money.
Well, that's the point. Just to surmise it all, it's usually the party that's in power or that wields the most power that's running the country, so to speak, presidency, Senate, House, yada, yada. Usually they're the ones pushing for the increase. And the other side's like, no, we need to be responsible. We need to do this. But then 4 years down the road, all the power switches. And the people that were saying, no, we need to be responsible. We need to do this. They come back to the table and say, we just got to increase it, guys. And then the people that wanted to increase it back then go, no, we need to be responsible. We need to stand up. We need to do it. So it's just this ever evolving, like, shitstorm. It's just a shitstorm of non-accountability. They're not really trying to fix anything. They're just trying to get more out of whatever they can while they can. And that's just the way, like, the people that are losing are, no. And the people that are winning are like, yeah. So that's David's short summary of the debt ceiling and how it's always gone up for some reason. Our debt has always gone up over the past 20 years.
Yeah. So they keep raising the goddamn
40
ceiling.
years, 50 years. So instead of saying, hey, maybe we should actually adhere to this fucking ceiling for once, because what's a ceiling, Dane?
A cap, a limit.
It's where you have to stop. It's where you have to go, all right, we're getting a little crazy right now. Okay, it's when you wake up in Vegas with a needle in your chest and a dead hooker in your room. You're like, okay, I've clearly taken it too far. I need to pull it back. I need to stop partying so hard. I need to find Jesus. And I'm going to start a family. And I'm going to get a respectable job. And I'm never going to do this again. That's what a ceiling is. Or as we, us members of the normal societies call it rock bottom. It's either a ceiling or it's rock bottom, and both are synonymous. But every time we just, you know what? We'll just go back to Vegas. It'll be different this time. We're just going to go back with a lot more money, a lot more cocaine, and a limit of 3 hookers. That's all I'm going to get. That's all I'm going to get this time. I'm going to be responsible. 3 hookers.
And I mean, it's the way these people talk in light of what they've already done. Just recently, the United States debt crossed the $31 trillion threshold. There was a time in David and I's life when it was down around 10 trillion, probably even less.
And even then they were saying, there's no way we're ever going to pay this back.
Yeah. 31 trillion, just to put that into perspective, rough estimate is for every man, woman, and child living. I think this is probably the first time I'm saying this on the podcast, so I expect some attaboys in the comments. But I will soon be having a daughter in about 3 months. She's not
Mazel tov.
She's not even born yet, and she's already over $90,000 in debt. If you were to divide,
egregiously
spending, yeah,
Jesus,
we got to take that girl's credit card away.
We need to get her out of South Florida. That's for sure.
Over $90,000 in debt for every man, woman, and child in the United States to pay this off. And in a very real sense, that's exactly what it is. It is mortgaging your children's future. Because people always say, oh, well, who cares about our debt? It's not like we're going to pay it. Who's going to come and collect? China? Let them come and do it. America? Yeah, we'll bomb them. Yeah, instead of paying our debts that we ran up. No, that debt is owed to the American people. And how is that debt paid back? Well, a lot of it is tied up in terms of unfunded liabilities. So when the government says, we promise when you retire, we're going to take care of you with Social Security. We're going to take care of you with Medicare. If you're too poor and, can't help yourself out, with health insurance or whatever, we're going to take care of you with Medicaid. We're going to take care of you with this, and we're going to take care of you with that. And every single day, you have some fucking politician mouth breather up on Capitol Hill arguing for more things for the government to take care of. And what's eventually going to happen is those programs are going to default. There is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not bipartisan bickering up on Capitol Hill. It's not, I'm going to read a quote from one of these disingenuous prick Democrats here in a second. It's not that. It's not holding the American people hostage by refusing to raise the debt ceiling. It is more false promises piled on top of previous false promises that they never had any intention of ever paying. It is, I will tell you what you need to hear so you elect me now. And then after I've served my 50 years in Congress and made myself a multimillionaire with insider trading and selling my power and privilege to the highest bidder, then I'm going to ride off into the sunset in my retirement where I don't need the government to take care of me. And the rest of you all are going to be screwed. That's what it is. Every time you hear them talk about raising the debt ceiling, hear that. Because that's exactly what it is. It's a bunch of lies and false promises that they can't possibly deliver on. And so who does that hit? That hits us. We're never going to see Social Security. That hits our kids' kids, and our kids' kids, and it goes on forever. But here's a quote before I turn it back over to David that just shows you the height of disingenuousness and how scummy these fucking people are to try to turn this around and blame it on other people when they have nothing but a mirror to look back in front of them if they're looking for the worst piece of shit alive.
It's getting really heated.
This is from Representative Bill Foster, a Democrat from Illinois. He says, quote, weaponizing the debt ceiling and using it as a pawn in partisan budget negotiations is dangerous and repeatedly brings our nation to the brink of default, which would be disastrous to the U.S. economy. Something we've witnessed as recently as 2011, when Republicans created a debt ceiling crisis that resulted in the first ever downgrade to the U.S. credit rating. You know what, Bill? You know what's dangerous to the American economy? You know what's disastrous for American citizens? You fucking pieces of shit running up a $31 trillion debt tab. That's what's dangerous. Money we didn't authorize you to spend. So you'll have to forgive us when you come back, Johnny come lately, crying in your milk about, oh, they're using it for partisan politics and it's dangerous and how dare they use this as a pawn to get what they want politically and da-da-da-da-da. Go fuck yourself, Bill. And every single one of your predecessors who for the last 5 decades have thought that this is a brilliant fucking idea. Let's just spend a whole bunch of money we don't have. Let's turn on the money printer. Let's have inflation go through the roof. Let's come to the brink of global annihilation because we have a bunch of debts out there that we can't pay for, so we run around the world using our military to make sure that we maintain the world's global reserve currency so that the chickens don't come home to roost. That's exactly what it is, Bill. And that's why you and every one of you, the pieces of shit in your party and the Republicans who vote along you to keep raising it, that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting our necks on the chopping block for your promises so that you can make a little bit more coin today and keep your power for another day longer. David, I'm sorry. I don't even know who this guy is, but he's a piece of shit. And I've said my piece. I have nothing else to say on this episode. Very upset with Bill Foster for that statement. That was gloves off.
You okay?
I'm not okay.
You good?
I'm angry.
You good?
I'm very angry. No, I'm okay now. I got it out.
You got it
Sometimes you just got to blow a gasket,
man,
release some pressure.
I get it. PSI builds up. I get it. We're never going to see our Social Security, but it's okay, buddy, because we don't believe that the government is coming to save us. We don't believe that any of these fucking politicians are actually doing any of the things that they say that they're doing, and we'll be delightfully surprised when they actually do the things that they say they are doing. However, I said do. Secondly, more importantly, is that I don't want to call them the enemy because I don't want to be conspiracy theorist. But whenever somebody is telling you one thing and doing another thing, and it's hurting you, I would call that an enemy. So better to know the enemy and know what they're going to do because that makes them predictable. So when you know that they're going to keep driving up all these things, you know you're never going to see Social Security. And if you do, your grandchildren are paying for it or your great-grandchildren are paying for it. It puts things into perspective. They've been doing this since we've been alive, since our parents have been alive, and potentially since our grandparents have been alive. So it's really hard to take them seriously nowadays. When they used to be so much more articulate. They used to try. They used to be genuine. They used to come out and my American people. They'd make eye contact with you. But now we just have politicians this is the way that it is, all right? They're wrong and we're right. Get on board. we're running this ship and we're going to run it the right way because we're America. It's like, no, we're not. No, we're not. You're not America. You're not a part of us. Like they don't do it. Nothing they do up on Capitol Hill regards Americans anymore. That's so that's the fulcrum of this whole podcast. It's like we made a joke earlier, like we can't do that segment because it's, we've done that before. It's like, what haven't? Every week we do the same fucking segments, it feels like. It's like, oh, shocking. Another politician was found doing something he shouldn't have been. Oh, shocking. Another meme circulating around social media is fucking wrong or just patently wrong. Oh, we have to swallow another fact that they're espousing that we know for a fact that it's not a fact. But we have to now guzzle it down and regurgitate it to be a member of this society. Otherwise, we're placated as a bigot, privileged, this, that, the other. It's like, just to refresh, the meme was racist AI is racist. It's doing the things that every corporation has been doing for the past 20 years. It's supposed to be better than us, and we designed it to be exactly like us. Culture Corner. Do you know calories don't exist? There's a literal PhD saying that the reason that you're fat is because of genetics, not because of what you're shoving down your mouth, even though in your heart of hearts, everyone knows that's patently false. Epstein didn't kill himself. An FBI agent that was tasked with finding one party member aligned with a foreign diplomacy comes to figure out that they're the ones entangled with the foreign diplomacy. Main topic, Democrats are pushing for the ceiling to increase. Republicans just did that 8 years ago, 10 years ago. When was the last? Bush, at least it happened during Bush's presidency. Like this, it's cyclical and circular. It always happens, and they just keep spiraling. But unfortunately, it's spiraling upward to a calamity that I can't put my finger on it, but it doesn't feel good. 31 trillion. When we were born, it was 10 trillion.
No, far less than that. It was only 9 trillion before the 2008 financial crisis. So it's more than tripled in 15 years.
Fuck.
When we were born, it may not have even been a trillion. We were born at the tail end of the Reagan presidency, and he really exploded the national debt with his Star Wars program and stuff. So, there's no, Republicans and Democrats, they go back and forth about deficit and da-da-da. Well, one thing to be clear, here's a meme to destroy, because you're going to see this, if you haven't already, all over social media, where they try to 1984 words and confuse you by, saying one thing but meaning another. You'll hear this discussion between deficit and debt. Okay, deficit is what the average is what the shortfall is in a fiscal year. So in 2020, if you spend more than you brought in, you ran a deficit in 2020. The debt is the total accumulated funds owed over years of deficits. So when they'll say, like, the last president to actually run a surplus was Clinton. The last 2 or 3 years of his presidency, he ran a budget surplus, which means that in those individual years, he actually spent less than the federal government brought in revenue. But over the course of his entire 8 years of presidency, he still added to the debt. So even though he had a couple years of surplus, his entire presidency was still responsible for adding to the overall debt. So when I say that there's no innocent parties in this, Republican or Democrat, I say that very literally, unlike them that try to confuse you with the difference between deficit and debt. The last president who actually ran a budget surplus for the entire term of his presidency was all the way back in the 1920s with Calvin Coolidge. That's how long it's been since a presidential administration, Republican or Democrat, has not left office with the government more in a hole than when they started. And that is the nature of government. We say this all the time about how much incentives matter and why government is the worst thing, the worst vehicle. If you want to create something positive in the world, government is the absolute worst vehicle to do it in because the incentives are all screwed up. When government loses money, what is their argument? Exactly what Bill Foster says. We didn't meet our obligations. We didn't fulfill our promises. Give us more money. Give us a blank check. If a private company does that, if you do that, if you mismanage your funds, you're going bankrupt. Nobody's gonna loan you money anymore.
They don't even do that for schools.
Government's the only institution that can fuck up, and then the solution to the fuck up is give them more to fuck up with.
Well, that's the thing. It's like they clearly know that that's not the way to treat a problem because they said no child left behind. If your school falls behind, you get less funding.
And who's responsible for the curriculum? Them.
Well, fuck. If you don't succeed, you get less money. So that's an incentive right there. Where would that be useful to apply? To those morose motherfuckers up on Capitol Hill? If you guys got a report card, our taxes should be based on a report card system. And if you don't start moving the right direction, we pay you less money. You have less money to figure out the problem. What a fucking concept. Then you'd be incentivized to actually figure the problem out. Genius. You politicians are really fucking smart when you want to be. But not when it affects your bottom line.
Yeah. And I'll say this to you, Bill. I'll say this to Rep. Pramila J. Powell and Sheila Jackson Lee and all of the other representatives who signed on to this bullshit legislation. You can take this however you want to take it. This is a let them eat cake moment. This is if the people have had enough, be careful. Because this is the shit that we don't forget.
It's not a call for violence.
When you try to run up the tab and then say that anybody who objects to the running up of the tab is dangerous and they're the problem. And, this is how, when we talk about how like libertarians and stuff, how do they wind up on watch lists as being like these dangerous people? Well, because they're usually the loudest ones bitching about this kind of stuff. And so when the criminals are calling those objecting to their criminality the criminals, you're ruled by criminals. Make no doubt about it. And we won't forget and we won't forgive. So just pray that the whole thing doesn't come tumbling down where you can't go run behind all your guys with guns to protect you. Because I for sure won't forget, and I know a lot of other people that won't either.
Well, it's just interesting that, speaking of criminals, if you don't think this is criminal behavior, just look back to Iraq and Afghanistan for those people that have been alive long enough to remember that. That was a falsified war, came out later. Spent 20 years there, killed a lot of people. Epstein Island, obviously. Our general healthcare system that they just applied somebody that is willing to speak rhetoric for them in a high position. Again, these are all things that are maliciously done. They're not stupid for the most part. They know what they're doing, and this is egregious, and it's not going to stop until again, not a call for violence, just a call for fucking intelligence until we start holding their feet to the fire. Now, that being said, Dane, where can they find this episode of Weapons of Meme Destruction?
They can find us at wndpodcast.com/131. And WND Podcast is where they should go to jump on that email list, to go to the Support Our Work tab and look at all the different options for how to support us. But failing that, the best way is just like, subscribe, share, comment, get the word out about us. We are keeping that subscriber count, at least on YouTube, above one person per episode. So we thank you for helping us keep up with that. Keep going, because eventually we'll get big enough that network effect will kick in and maybe we'll really hit our stride. But they can also get the podcast on the audio only, just any podcast catcher. Just search Weapons of Meme Destruction. You'll be able to find us there. And then the videos will be on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey. This is probably one of those episodes where David always likes to hint around that I'm going to be the one that gets us CIA black bagged, yeah, this will probably be
Listen,
one
I'll
of
get
them.
us canceled. You'll get us killed.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I always say.
But nonetheless, we didn't talk about the no words, so this is up in its full glory on YouTube, but also Rumble and Odyssey, if I didn't already say that. And then you can also link up with us on our other podcast related, but not specifically the full episodes. Instagram, TikTok, Facebook is members only page, Twitter, Float, and
Don't forget
Tribal
Tribal.
from the fancy area of France. Yes, if you're on Tribal and you are Tribal, whatever,
I go like that. I think that's too simple. Tribal.
and you are anything other than that crazy lady who wants us banned and blocked and nuked from everything. Thank you. Thanks for having us. I'm sure you'll like what we had to say on this episode.
Oh, they'll be ecstatic.
So Grandma's going to get mad at me. I said a lot of bad words on this one.
Mad at you.
I was very upset on this episode.
She doesn't ever tell me she's mad at me.
on
Maybe
this.
she holds me to a lesser standard.
No, I'm just talking about with the
that's
bad
hard.
word, you know.
Oh, whoopsie daisy. Someone let their little emotions hang out there for a second.
Grandma's the only one I need to make proud, okay?
Yes.
Everybody else can kick rocks. Especially you.
I kick plenty of rocks. I don't need extras. All right. Well, with all that being said, we're so gad. I almost said gad.
You want to try that one again?
Gad sad.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the one.
Yeah.
We're so glad that you guys shared this time with us. Until next week, stay safe, but more importantly, stay free.